Hey all, I'm here to give you a quick glimpse into Glance's image import plugins and why we did them and how you can do your own. So I'm Erno Kuvaja. I'm a software engineer at Red Hat, and I'm also a current PTL for Glance. And let's start for the basics. So what is image importing in Glance? Image importing is the interoperable way to create images. It's aimed for end users, and it also brings the web download, which was one of the big things missing from version 2 API from version 1. Original design and the requirement for this was driven by the interoperability group and the trademark group. And the whole idea of the image import in Glance is that it's discoverable, first of all, and it's pluggable. So we have our plugins in there enabling people to bring their images to the cloud and the cloud to be able to introspect and process that image data. So big question, why plugins? Why do we want to have it pluggable? So that was one of the requirements from the operators, to be able to control what ways of image uploads are allowed to their clouds. And obviously there is different requirements between big public clouds and small private clouds and all between. And one of the big requirements for us working on this was that the operators were asking from us to be able to bring their own introspection into the images. So when the user uploads their image to Glance don't just automatically push it through and allow that user to push that blob of binary going to the hypervisor and possibly have something dangerous there taking that over. So the plugin framework, what we implemented, enables the operators to build up their own introspection queues and workflows to make sure that the image data, what is going into the cloud, is something they can safely boot on their hypervisors. And the other reasoning for this was the ability to transform the image before it goes active. As you likely know, the active image in Glance means that the image is immutable. So at the point when we flag the image active, we guarantee in a Glance's perspective that the image data does not change. We have a hash there that is going to be secured even more for the consumer to be able to determine that the image data is what it was intended, and there is nothing fishy going on that before it boots. But that became a little bit problematic as, for example, converting the images to something that is suitable for the backend what the operator is running was impossible. Only way we were able to do that was to actually create a new image, convert the data, and apply that data to the new image. And now with the import plugins, we are able to do things like automatic image conversion. So if you're running Ceph, you totally don't want to have your QCOW2s landing on the Ceph backend. And this plugin framework enables the possibility to convert that image to RAW before it lands to the backend. And still, that image, once it hits active, it's immutable. So we can process the data going into Glance before we hit that immutability promise. And that should improve a lot on the point where hopefully the interoperability groups aim to have every single OpenStack cloud allowing their users to create their own images into the cloud becomes finally a possible reality. So on this new process, we have plugins in 2 different places. So first of all, the methods themselves. We have 2 at the moment implemented, Glance Direct and web-download. They are plugins provided by us, the Glance community, and they are a little bit more tightly tied into the Glance code itself, so it's not as trivial to implement operator-own import methods. It's not impossible, obviously, but we didn't do it as easy as we did for the import workflow plugins, which is the step after the data lands to Glance, and Glance stages it for processing and uploading to the backend. So the import workflow can run plugins. We have some there provided by the community that lives in the Glance code base. We have a no-op plugin, which is basically a boilerplate showing how you can make your own. And as the name suggests, it's no-op. And it's just there to kind of give a easy framework to start with to build your own. And then we have a metadata injection plugin that was driven, was part of the work to get this all done. And that allows the operator to specify metadata that gets put into those images when a user uploads one. And the user don't need to worry about that. So, for example, know what to schedule user images to specific nodes and say admin created images to other nodes. That was the driving force for it. And I'm currently working to bring that image conversion plugin into the Rocky so that we have the tooling in place to do that automatic image conversion. These are all configurables, and when the plugin gets implemented and imported into the Glance, you can just auto-generate a template config file and change the config for these plugins. The config lives on its own config file, so it's easy to find where you have those options, and if you don't want to run any of the import plugins, you don't need to worry about that config at all. So it's fairly well documented. We have our admin documentation has a good details how to enable those plugins, how to configure them, and also what needs to be done to actually create them. And the second link there is specifically for creating your own plugins, where do you need to tap it in. The third link is where you have to register the plugin to Glance. So with the import plugins, there is you need to provide the plugin file, and you need to register it in the setup.conf on the Glance repository, and also under the async flows plugins, there is a plugin options.py where those config options, what you have provided in your plugin, needs to be provided so that we can auto-generate that config file, and we can process those configurations. So the task is quite straightforward. It's a task flow plugins. So it's all Python. It's fairly simple to get your own plugin rolling. A few lines of Python. You can call, obviously, external tooling out of the plugins, and as long as you follow the boilerplate, that's pretty much all what is needed. So that's all what I had. Any quick questions before we run totally out of time? OK, thank you very much.